As Middle Tennessee continues to recover from the tornadoes that swept through the state last weekend, we're learning about big changes to the way your donations will get to the victims after these sorts of disasters.
The Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee has long served as the clearinghouse for disaster relief in Nashville. But moving forward, that will no longer be the case. Good evening to you. I'm Carrie Sharp.
I'm Rory Johnston. This comes after a News Channel 5 investigation raised questions about how the Community Foundation distributed money after the tornadoes back in March of 2020. And now, a new audit.
Consumer investigative reporter Jennifer Krause breaks down what's changing and why what you need to know about disaster victims in the days and weeks ahead.
After the historic flooding in Nashville in 2010, Metro asked the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to be in charge of collecting donations after disasters and making sure that money got in the right hands so that it would help survivors. And that's the way it's been done now for nearly a dozen years. But at Monday's meeting of the Metro Audit Committee,
Davidson County grants, though, will not come from the Community Foundation.
we learned that's about to change.
But United Way will be responsible for making grants in Davidson County.
Hal Cato became CEO of the Community Foundation a little more than a year ago, after News Channel 5 Investigates first raised questions about how the organization distributed money after the March 2020 tornadoes. The organization took in more than $12.5 million in donations then, but our investigation revealed that the Community Foundation sent money to groups that never asked for it, and 2 years later still could not account for a lot of the money and who received it. So last year,
where did the money go and how was it spent and what good did my donation do, right?
Metro Councilwoman Courtney Johnston called for a full audit. Now that audit, done by an outside firm, is finally finished, and it confirms what we'd originally reported. And it puts the Community Foundation in a not-so-flattering light.
And from the way that the money was distributed, it did not appear that they were prepared for that disaster.
Auditors made several recommendations for dispersing disaster money going forward, including separating money for disaster victims in Davidson County from aid earmarked for other counties. And when giving disaster aid to nonprofits that are helping disaster victims, make sure that they're aware that they must fully account for how that money is used.
I do think, though, that the findings that they pointed out are already being put in place.
Cato at Monday's meeting promised that since he's taken over, things at the Community Foundation are different now.
You have my word, and I'm happy to share, our new updated policies and procedures that we're putting in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
But despite his assurances, the city, we've learned, is changing things up and will no longer use the Community Foundation to disperse disaster relief.
One of the reasons I wanted to do the audit was to make sure that we're partnering with people that are the best partners that we can partner with in order to be as responsive and as efficient and effective when we have a disaster.
Going forward, the United Way will be in charge of deciding where financial donations go in Nashville after disasters and making sure it gets in the right hands. It will use its Charity Tracker program to provide more accountability by closely tracking where exactly the money goes and how it's being spent. Meanwhile, the Community Foundation will continue to collect donations and provide disaster relief outside of Davidson County, awarding grants to nonprofits providing disaster relief as it has done before. The two organizations are working together now to raise money for the victims of last weekend's tornadoes. And if you donate to Middle Tennessee's tornado relief, you'll be given two options. If you want to give money to victims in Davidson County, you'll be sent to the United Way's website. And to support those outside Davidson County, you'll be directed to the Community Foundation site.
I'm really excited about, and I feel like we're on the best path forward to take advantage of each individual organization's strengths and how we could come together and work for a common goal so that we can respond to the people that need our help.
One of the strengths of the Community Foundation has long been fundraising, and Hal Cato tells me they will continue to raise money for Nashville after disasters, and that money will then be transferred to the United Way. The Community Foundation, though, will have a representative on the United Way's committee that will decide where the money will go. This is all going to be spelled out in a new MOU, or contract, if you will, that would be presented to the Metro Council for approval at its first meeting in January. Jennifer Krause, News Channel 5 Investigates.
Thanks, Jennifer. Brian Hassett, the head of the United Way of Greater Nashville, tells us that like the Community Foundation, they too give grants to organizations that help rather than directly to disaster survivors. He says they work with more than 130 local partner agencies, including the American Red Cross and Salvation Army. And the United Way says they'll start sending money to these groups to help victims of the tornadoes this week.